Hey guys, I'm back again and I have for you today a review of A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. Okay, now I decided to pick this book up because I haven't read any Jamaica Kincaid in about 2 years. I picked up Annie John, and then I picked up Lucy, and I enjoyed reading both of them enormously. So I decided to pick up this one, A Small Place, which is a nonfiction work about the life and I guess you can say the political workings of the island of Antigua, which is where Jamaica Kincaid is from. Now, this book's basically told in this kind of second person, in the sense where it addresses directly the reader and through the entire book, but in particular in the sections, I think pretty much in the first section of the book, where it discusses tourism on the island of Antigua. Now, you're probably going to start reading this and you're going to say, well, who the hell is this woman? Where does she get off insulting tourists that are going to her island? The tourists are giving her, are spending money on the island and allowing the people to have a life, etc., etc. Well, she breaks it down for you and tells you why, as a tourist on an island like Antigua or any other island in the Caribbean, when you go as a tourist, you need to look around and see what things are really like. But of course, we're not there for that. We're there for the beaches, the cocktails, the 5-star hotels, and that kind of stuff. So real island life as tourists we're not interested in. And yeah, at some point, right out insults to tourists. She talks about how the island people look or regard the tourist, and it's not very nice. They say something like, oh yeah, these fat, pasty tourists, on beaches, beat red, don't care, they're just worried about their holiday kind of thing. Well, as it progresses, this book, she then goes into the specificities of what is wrong with the island of Antigua. Now, keep in mind, this book was published in 1989, so I dearly hope things have improved for the Antiguans. Now that we're in 2015, but I'm pessimistic, so it probably hasn't really improved. But if you're from Antigua, you can write below and tell me if it's improved or not. But when you read this, you will suddenly realize that from the corruption, which is practically endemic, from the relationship of the Antiguans to their past history of being colonized, it has deeply affected every aspect of living on the island. So she breaks this down for you by talking about, she gives example of the library, that since it became free, that there's this sign hanging on this old library about how they're going to get stuff fixed. And this library is still just broken down and crumbling. And the new library is above a shop or something, like above a supermarket, something ridiculous like that. She then goes into talking about how corrupt the government is and how it is so corrupt that they even give passports to businessmen who come onto the island and just make it their little castle, and they install all kinds of rules for these people so that they can make money off of the backs of the Antiguans and anybody else that they can. And there, she even talks about sometimes there's murders over money and maybe political strife, that kind of thing. It is really a worrisome novel. Now, the thing that I wasn't in accord with is when I went on Goodreads to check out what people said about this book, I noticed that it has almost like maybe 3.78 stars or 3.8 stars or something like that. So I went through the comments to see what people said. And I think the majority of the people enjoyed reading this book because I guess it installed some kind of knowledge about something they knew nothing about, which is my case. And there was then this small portion of people, maybe like a third, maybe a little less than a third, who said, oh, she's an angry woman. She's just angry in this book. Well, you know, if you read the book, breaking down everything that is wrong with the place that you are from and where you used to live. And, you know, people were saying, oh, well, you know, she doesn't even live there anymore. She could get that library fixed. No, I don't think Mrs. Kincaid can get that library fixed. I don't think anybody can get that library fixed. Maybe Obama could get that library fixed. I don't know. But as endemic as the problem of corruption is in Antigua, no, Mrs. Kincaid can't get that library up. Yes, she lives in Vermont. Well, she probably lives in Vermont for a reason. She stated in the book that if you get sick, the hospital is the last place you want to go because there's only 3 doctors there and nobody trusts any of these doctors. So, you know, there's a lot of things wrong with it. But she beautifully states towards the end of the book a passage which I'm going to read to you about what we call a small place. She says, in a small place, people cultivate small events. The small event is isolated, blown up, turned over and over, and then absorbed into the everyday, so that at any moment it can and will roll off the inhabitants of the small place's tongues. For the people in a small place, every event is a domestic event. The people in a small place cannot see themselves in a larger picture. They cannot see that they might be part of a chain of something, anything. Then she goes on and she says, the people in a small place cannot give an exact account, a complete account of themselves. The people in a small place cannot give an exact account, a complete account of events, small though they may be. This cannot be held against them. An exact account, a complete account of anything, anywhere is not possible. The hour in the day of the year some ship sets sail is a small detail in any picture, any story. But the picture itself, the story itself depend on things that can never, ever be pinned down. The people in a small place can have no interest in the exact or in completeness, for that would demand a careful weighing, careful consideration, careful judging, careful questioning. It would demand the invention of a silence inside of which these things could be done. It would demand a reconsideration, an adjustment in the way they understand the existence of time. To the people in a small place, the division of time into the past, the present, and the future does not exist. So you get there a very good idea about what she tried to put down on paper, which some people would qualify as being angry, which I don't really like that term, angry. You know, it's like this angry black woman. Well, guess what? You know, I think if I was her, I'd be damn angry too, because living in a place where your voice doesn't count and the only thing that does are tourists, the government, other foreigners that the government brings there to make more money for themselves, not for the people that live there. All of that, those are all indications that somebody's going to be angry. And I'm sure Jamaica Kincaid is not the only angry person, but she has the capability of writing it down on paper and making it obvious to the rest of the world what is really happening in Antigua. And I think for that alone, it's worth picking up this book.